We met at a work conference and fell in love, and he moved to Melbourne and we got married, and a year later we had our first son Josh, and then 3 years later we had Braden. We were happy in our life. I was the stay-at-home mum and the wife, and Alan was off in the workforce and doing all that, and he was the one that took charge of all that. He was the one that organised the finances and paid the bills and organising, okay, we'll put a little bit of this money away for this and money away for something like that. So that was his role, and he was in charge of that. I didn't worry because I knew that he had it all under control, and it was just not something that I ever needed to worry about. I worked in the financial planning industry, so I was very familiar with the important role the financial planner plays in someone's life. I would never try and fix my own car or fix my own electrical work. So when Alan moved to Melbourne and he needed someone to look after our financial affairs, he said, well, you're from here, who would you recommend? And Rowan was the first name that sprang to my mind. The boys were old enough to travel, so we decided to go up to Palm Cove for a holiday, and Alan had just started working with a personal trainer, and he came home one night and he said, my hand feels funny when I feel this and it just feels not quite right. And just put it down to maybe straining something. So we went off on our holiday and lots of little things started happening, and they were all same arm, same leg. He kept knocking his foot and sensations in his arm, and because my father had died of a brain tumour when I was in my 20s, and I remember what it was like, it affected one half of his body, and alarm bells went off in my head. And so when we came home, he went straight to the doctor, and they did send him straight for some scans, and within a week he was in hospital, paralysed down the left side, and we spent lots of weeks in the hospital, rehab hospitals, learning to walk again and learning to use his arm again. At the same time, I had one child at school and another one still in nappies, and doing hospital runs and helping him and making the house safe so that he could come home from hospital and still be able to operate and work on his recovery. So it was a very challenging time. It was not quite 5 months from diagnosis till when Alan died, and it was a brutally short illness, and you know, we knew that we had rounds of chemotherapy ahead of us, so we were thinking that far ahead, and we had plenty of time to get things in order, and it was over before we'd even known about it, before we'd even really had time to come to terms with what was happening to our family. And you know, the days and the weeks after the funeral, I was just in a functioning fog, but a fog, because I still had to function for the boys and look after them. I was dealing with my own grief and helping them understand what was happening and why Dad wasn't coming home from work. And then that was the practical stuff, and then there was bills that kept coming and things that needed to be done, and I knew that there was a will, and I knew that I had to apply for probate, but where to start with all of that, I had absolutely no idea. Rowan came to see me one day, and I was very glad that I didn't have to navigate my way into the city. He came to see me, and he helped me understand what I needed to do, and probably the overriding feeling I had at that time was that I already had somebody that I could trust, because I had a relationship with Rowan before, and Alan and Rowan had a great relationship. So I knew that I didn't have to find somebody that I could trust to help me with all of this stuff. He was there, and he came and he sat down and he broke it down into manageable chunks for me and helped me understand what it was that I was doing. So all of a sudden I had this huge financial responsibility on my shoulders, but I understood what I was doing, and he helped me understand each step that I needed to take and where that fitted into the overall picture. That's a lot of trust to put into someone, and there's a lot at stake. There's my future and the future of my children, and that's that's precious. And to be able to give that to someone, to trust somebody to look after me like my husband would look after me, was very important. And I can't even begin to think about what it would be like to be burdened with having to find that person on top of everything else that was going on. Alan had a list of things that he would write down during his recovery, and they were his recovery goals. And everything that he wrote down was related to here and things to do with the boys. Like he wanted to be able to go out and kick the ball with Josh or get down on the floor and play Lego with Braden. His goals were family focused goals, and it was very important to him to be able to provide for the family, and I'm very grateful that I can still do all the things for the boys and with the boys that Alan would have wanted us to do. And because of the plans that he put in place and the work that he was doing with Rowan, I'm able to do these things, and I'm able to give the boys the childhood that they deserved, and a happy childhood, not one that's defined by the death of their father. And I think that he would be really happy to know that he's still looking after us.